Have you ever wondered why some people can walk into a room and instantly inspire everyone around them? It's not because they're the smartest person there. It's not even because they have the best product, the most money, or the loudest voice. It's because they know something most of us forget in our daily lives. They know their why. And when you understand your why, you don't just work harder, you work with purpose. You don't just live, you lead. Now, here's the question I want you to sit with. What would your life look like if you stopped chasing what you do and started focusing on why you do it? That's exactly what Simon Sinek and Steve Jobs understood better than almost anyone else. And today, we're going to break down how these two leaders approach the power of why and how you can use it to change not just your career, but the way you see your entire life. Simon Sinek once said, "Working hard for something we don't care about is called stress. Working hard for something we love is called passion." And Steve Jobs echoed the same spirit when he said, "The only way to do great work is to love what you do." So stick with me until the end, because in this video, we're going to dig into one quote from Simon Sinek that could completely change how you think about your purpose, and we'll explore how Steve Jobs put that same philosophy into action at Apple. Let's start with Simon Sinek. If you've ever watched his famous TED Talk, you know the line, "People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it." Think about that for a second. People aren't moved by the product itself. They're moved by the belief behind it. That's why Nike doesn't just say, "We make good athletic gear." Their message is, "Just do it." It's about courage, action, and breaking limits. And that's what makes people line up for a pair of sneakers they could buy cheaper elsewhere. Nike's why is what people connect to. Now, let's compare that to Steve Jobs. Jobs didn't just build Apple as a company that made computers. He said, "We're here to put a dent in the universe. Otherwise, why even bother?" That was Apple's core. Everything else, the iPhone, the Mac, the iPod, those were just what they made. When you bought an Apple product, you weren't just buying hardware. You were buying into a movement. Jobs often said, "The people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do." And that's exactly what Apple stood for. And here's the part that's most important for you. You don't need to be Steve Jobs or run a billion-dollar company to use this. Your why might be as personal as wanting to give your kids a better life, or wanting to bring more kindness into your community, or wanting to prove to yourself that you're capable of more. Whatever it is, when you connect with your why, everything else becomes more powerful. So, we've seen how Simon Sinek teaches us the importance of starting with why, and how Steve Jobs lived that principle through Apple's success. But the question is, how do you actually find your why? That's what we'll dive into next. So now that we've explored Simon Sinek's idea and seen how Steve Jobs lived it out, let's bring this closer to home. Because it's one thing to nod along and say, "Yeah, I get it. Start with why." But it's another thing entirely to sit down, look at your own life, and actually figure out your why. Here's the thing. Most of us start with the wrong question. We usually ask, "What do I want to do?" We ask, "What job should I get?" Or "What's the next step?" But Simon Sinek flips it. He says, the question isn't what, it's why. Why do you want that job? Why do you want that goal? Why does it matter to you? Think about it. Two people could be doing the exact same work, but their experience of it is completely different. One person is slogging through the hours, checking boxes, waiting for Friday. The other person is lit up, energized, motivated because they know their why. They're not just doing a job. They're living a purpose. Let me give you an example. Imagine two teachers. Teacher A shows up every day because, well, it's a paycheck. Teacher B shows up every day because she believes that education has the power to change lives, and she wants every child in her classroom to believe in themselves. Both are teaching math or science or history. But who do you think the kids will remember? It's not about what they do, it's about why they do it. And here's where Steve Jobs comes back into the picture. Jobs didn't just talk about thinking different as a marketing slogan. He lived it in every decision Apple made. Take the iPod launch in 2001. Other companies had MP3 players too, but Jobs didn't stand on stage and say, "This is a 5 GB music player." He said, "1,000 songs in your pocket." See the difference? He didn't just tell you what the product was, he told you why it mattered. That's the key. Your why should make people feel something, not just know something, feel it. So how do you actually find your why? Start by asking yourself some simple but deep questions. When was the last time you felt truly proud of yourself? What moments in your life gave you energy instead of draining it? What impact do you want to leave on the people around you? Your answers to those questions, that's where your why lives. And don't overthink it. Your why doesn't have to sound poetic or groundbreaking. It just has to be real. Maybe your why is to create beauty. Maybe it's to bring order to chaos. Maybe it's to lift people up when they're down. That's enough. Because once you know your why, it shapes everything: your career, your relationships, your goals. And here's the bonus: when you live your why, people notice. They feel it, just like customers felt it with Apple, or employees feel it when they have a leader who truly believes in something bigger than profits. That's when opportunities start opening up. Not because you're chasing them, but because people are drawn to your energy. Now that we've explored how to uncover your why and seen how Jobs and Sinek put it into action, we're ready to go deeper. Because knowing your why is step one, but living it out in the real world, that's where the real challenge begins. And in the final part of this video, we'll talk about exactly that: how to stay connected to your why, even when life gets messy, and how to turn it into something that inspires not only yourself, but everyone around you. So here we are, the final and maybe the most important part. You've learned what Simon Sinek means by start with why, and you've seen how Steve Jobs built Apple by living out that principle. You've even started reflecting on your own why, maybe even caught a glimpse of it in your mind. But now comes the real question: how do you hold on to it? Because life has a way of distracting us, doesn't it? Bills pile up, routines take over, setbacks happen, and before we know it, that clarity we once felt about our purpose starts to fade. Here's the truth: living your why is not a one-time decision. It's a daily practice. Think of it like working out. You don't get strong from one trip to the gym. You get strong because you show up again and again, even when you don't feel like it. Your why works the same way. Take Steve Jobs again as an example. Even after launching the iPhone and revolutionizing the industry, he never stopped refining Apple's why. He was obsessed with simplicity, creativity, and empowering people through technology. That obsession showed up in every product design meeting, every keynote presentation, even in how Apple stores were built. He didn't just say the words, he lived them relentlessly. So how do you do the same? Here are a few practical ways. First, write your why down. Not just once, but somewhere you can see it every day. Put it on your phone background. Stick it on your bathroom mirror. Make it the compass you check before making big decisions. Second, share it. When you tell people your why, you hold yourself accountable. You invite others into your vision. And just like Apple attracted millions of people who believed in thinking different, you'll find that people in your own life start connecting with your why too. And third, realign often. Life will throw you curveballs. You'll get knocked off course. That's okay. That doesn't mean you've lost your why. It just means you need to remind yourself of it. The most powerful leaders and the most fulfilled people aren't the ones who never stumble. They're the ones who know how to come back to their why when they do. Now, I want you to imagine something. Imagine waking up tomorrow not with dread about the to-do list or the grind ahead, but with excitement because you know why you're doing it. Imagine people around you noticing that spark, feeling inspired by the way you show up. That's the difference between drifting through life and living on purpose. That's the difference between what and why. Simon Sinek gave us the words. Steve Jobs gave us the proof. And now, it's your turn to write the story. Because the truth is, your why doesn't have to change the world to matter. It just has to change your world, and the ripple effects will follow. So let me leave you with this. Don't just ask yourself, what do I do? Or how do I do it? Ask yourself, why am I here? Why does it matter? And when you answer that honestly, you'll find that your actions, your choices, your relationships, all of it, start to align in ways you never thought possible. Now, I'd love to hear from you. What's one why that drives you, even in the small things? Share it in the comments below because your story might inspire someone else who really needs it today. And if this video gave you something to think about, give it a like, subscribe for more, and join this community where we dig deep into ideas that can actually change how you live. Remember, the power of why isn't just for leaders or entrepreneurs. It's for anyone who wants to live with more meaning, more clarity, and more impact. And that includes you. So keep asking why, keep chasing purpose, and I'll see you in the next video.